Hello, I'm Dr. Chad Hawk, and this is the first of several Lunch and Learn recordings that I'm going to do on a monthly basis. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions or you'd like to talk to me about anything, please feel free to contact me, chad@drchadhawk.com or 913-334-7340. Thank you so much, everybody, and I hope you enjoy this presentation on the gut and its neurologic control. So this is the first time I've done the Lunch and Learns since I've been back since I moved back here to Kansas City. And it's something that I want to start doing on a monthly basis. And I'm going to make these topical discussions. This one happens to be on the gut. At the end, I welcome any comments you have for other topics. It can be on anything. I'm more than willing to talk about any topic. The reason I used to do them is because it was a great opportunity for my established patients to get more information and relax and, schedule their adjustments near that time and just get more. And for new people, it's a great opportunity for them to learn more about me and what I do before they ever come in and make sure it's a good fit for them. So I am going to be bold and welcome your referrals. For the first time since 2012, I'm growing my practice. It's kind of an odd thing to say, but I am now, because I'm not doing all the other things that I used to do, which was be on the Colorado board, do my missions work, run my practice, run Atlas Media Group, and all these other things that I used to do. I'm done with that. I'm only here in practice. So I need your help growing. I am a referral-only practice, which means I believe like attracts like. And I like you, so I expect you to attract people like you back to me. Good?
Yes. Yep.
So let's talk about the gut, because there's so much over the last 20 years that we've learned about how the intestines work, and not only how they work, but how they're influenced and regulated and controlled. For example, one of the facts we're going to get to near the end here is that 70% of your immune system is found in your gut. Did you know that?
No.
70%. So if you have a healthy gut, you tend to be very, very healthy. Okay? If you have an unhealthy gut, you tend to be more sick and have a bunch of other problems. And that's what we're going to get into. The first thing I'm going to talk to you about is the neurologic control. Now, I've included 4 diagrams for you. It's way more information than you need, but you have it as a resource going forward. The first thing, and I'm going to run through the 4 primary building blocks of chiropractic, and you're going to see how they tie into this. Number 1, the nervous system is the master system of the body. We know that. It controls and coordinates all organs and structures and relates you to your environment, period. That's Dorland's medical dictionary, okay? If your nervous system is not working right, you're not working right because your body isn't being controlled properly. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That break in the communication between the brain and the body is called a subluxation. That's how it's spelled. Sub meaning under or less than. Lux is energy or light. Okay? So less energy in the body, less light in the body. In fact, I'm going to ask you this. When you first came, you know when your atlas subluxates, don't you? You feel like you're dialed down. Less light in the body, right? So when a person is subluxated, they're expressing less of their potential. Does that make sense? Not
Yes.
trying to get too esoteric here, but you get the idea. If we extrapolate this and we go into other areas, how it impacts the spinal cord, which also has impact on the sympathetic chain ganglion. Now, if you can imagine, the spinal cord is in dead center. The sympathetic chain ganglion runs on either side of the spine itself and runs up and down, north and south, and it controls all sympathetic activity of the body. Sympathetic is fight or flight. Okay? Parasympathetic is rest and digest. Heal, rest, and digest. Okay? So if you have a subluxation that's impacting the spinal cord, it is by default impacting the sympathetic chain ganglion. It's also directly impacting the adrenal medulla. Do you know what the adrenal glands are? They make adrenaline and cortisol and other hormones that get released into the body. This forces you into a fight or flight response. That's why when people are subluxated, you almost always see them become sympathetic dominant. They're overactive. Their body's working harder than it needs to. Make sense? Mm-hmm. Then it also goes north, up to the cerebellum. What happens in the cerebellum? Well, that's the brain. Divides out, thalamus and vestibular nucleus. As this goes on, you can see how things like GI tract are getting impacted both ways inside the brain. And what we're going to get into, without going too far into the weeds and completely losing you in this, is look at your first diagram. You see the brain. In fact, I want to make sure I stapled everybody's correctly. Good. Okay, the brain receives information from the gut and the microbia, which is the stuff that's growing inside the intestines, which help you digest your food. You have a symbiotic relationship. You're both dependent on each other. If you don't have it there, you die. Okay? If it doesn't have you, it can't live. So it's a symbiotic relationship between your microflora of your gut and how you function and work and able to live in this world. Dysbiosis, that word you see, is when there's not the right amount or type of microflora present inside your gut. And if it's not the right type, then you start getting certain inflammatory chemicals released into your body. And people will get systemic swelling, they'll get brain fog, they'll get a whole host of issues that they never associate with their gut. People who have healed from gut issues will tell you, I always felt this pressure in the back of my head. It felt like my brain couldn't function right. Have any of you ever experienced that?
No.
Yeah, that's all gut related. Way more than anything else, it's gut related. As we move down into the next one, we're going to be talking about the central nervous system pathways. Now this looks like a big mess because it is a big mess. You have something called the vagus nerve, and I'm going to spend a whole section on the vagus nerve. Have you ever heard of your vagus nerve before?
Heard of it.
It means wandering. Vagus means wandering. It wanders directly from the brain. It does not go through the spinal cord. From direct brain innervation into your gut. Your heart, your lungs, and your gut, your intestines. Okay? This vagus nerve is, you can see it right here. It's cranial nerve 10. You have 12 cranial nerves. As it works its way down, you can see how it goes directly to the stomach and a lot of the parts of the upper intestines. The lower intestines is not the vagal nerve. That's actually coming down from the sacrum area, and that's the parasympathetic supply to how you eliminate reproductive function and elimination is down from the sacrum. If you notice, there's a big gap. You've got parasympathetic supply from on top and then down below, but almost none in the middle. That's because the middle is sympathetic supply. So the middle part of your back, from about here to here, is almost exclusively sympathetic control, which is fight or flight, get up and go. Hurry up, 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 hurry up. Is everything okay? It's kind of this worry wart, if you will. Parasympathetic, top and bottom, hey, relax. Everything's gonna be okay. And you have both of them working all the time in your body. When we do the HRV test, we're actually seeing the difference between your sympathetic and parasympathetic levels. That's why that test is so important for me, because it can help show me where, how, and how frequently you need to be adjusted. Because if you're way sympathetic dominant, you're burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. You're just using up way more energy than you should, and it's a destructive process. It's greater stress on your body than you should have, and you're the one causing it. Yeah. This isn't external stress, this is internal stress. Okay? Next page. This again shows the same thing in just a different way of seeing it. Now, you have your vagus control, and then your you have the sacral component of the parasympathetic function. But I want you to notice this ENS on the left side by the intestines. Do you see that? The ENS. You know what that is? It's the enteric nervous system. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
No. It is all of the neurologic activity that functions inside your gut. And here's the thing we're going to be covering today. By the way, before we get to that, I just want to touch on this because we may get to it. Do you see the CG, SMG, and IMG? That's the celiac ganglion, superior mesenteric ganglion or plexus, and inferior mesenteric ganglion or plexus. Those are big groups of nerve cell bodies that are regulating your gut. And sometimes I've done adjustments, I don't know if I've done it on you, where I will contact your gut and hold pressure in specific areas. And when I get on the right spot, boy, it hurts if you have a subluxation there. It hurts a lot. And I'll hold that until the subluxation corrects, and then instantly people's gut changes. Okay? So let's go to the next page, the vagus nerve. As I say, vagus needs wander. I did not type all this up. I figured I'm going to cover what I want to cover, but this is more textbook stuff. I copied and pasted this. You can read through it. I'm not going to cover every detail in it because I want to talk about what I want to talk about. But the vagus nerve is vitally important. The vagus nerve helps regulate how our body is experiencing pain and inflammation. Now, there is a big moment in time, a place where the vagus nerve can get so irritated right as it's exiting the skull, passing in front of the big bone at the top. Do you remember what it's called?
The atlas.
Atlas. It's called the atlas because it holds the globe of your head, just like Atlas holding the globe. And it's so important because if the atlas isn't in the right position, it can put pressure on that vagus nerve, and people can have a whole cascade of events from it, from blood pressure issues to heart rate issues to inflammatory responses to digestive function. Everything that the vagus nerve is going to can be impacted here. But when we normalize it, remember, we're talking about parasympathetic influence. That's why people feel better after an atlas adjustment, right?
Yeah.
It's actually an aha moment for many, many people, especially when they've had that for years. They get that one adjustment and they stand up and they say, oh my goodness, I feel different. And that's why. That's one of the reasons why. The other one is we've changed the pressure on the brainstem, and so different blood supply is going to the brain and a bunch of other things are occurring. But that's the vagus nerve. That's what we're talking about today. When that changes, everything changes inside. Okay? The vagus nerve actually influences how we experience life, so it changes the way we experience or how we remember moments. That's why people often will remember their first Atlas adjustment and they may not remember other adjustments because it instantly activates part of the brain to remember things in a new and different way.
Wow.
That's why kids who are in school often will get adjusted. Their parents will bring them in right before they have big tests. Especially when I was in Charlottesville with the University of Virginia there, you know, it's a quasi-Ivy League school, and the students wanted to perform at their best. And so they would come in and get checked right before finals all the time. I would have all these college students in there. I need my adjustment, I gotta pass my test. So it helps you change the way you think and remember things. It actually directly impacts how you breathe through the heart, oxygen concentration levels, and your lungs. Okay? Intimately involved with your heart. I'm not talking about heart today. We can do a whole thing on that. It initiates your body's relaxation response because of its parasympathetic dominant supply. That's you understand that. And it translates between your gut and your brain. Now, what's going to get really amazing in this is when we get to the enteric nervous system, the vagus nerve is going to be this big mediator between the brain and your gut. But before, I should just make sure, skip all that. The enteric nervous system, it is your second brain. So I didn't put page numbers on this, but I think you're all there. So your gut can think, and I'm putting this in quotes here, think independently of your brain. Your gut does not need your brain to control it all the time.
Wow.
Just like you have something called the pyramidal system inside your spinal cord, we've all heard, run around with like a chicken with its
Head cut off.
head cut off. How does it know how to do that? The head's gone. How can it run around?
Nerves.
The pyramidal system in a chicken is lower, and it can actually function and live. The longest living chicken with a head cut off is, I think, 2.5 years.
What?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's scary. Gee.
Yeah,
No
they would
head?
feed they put food, and the chicken can live perfectly fine with its head cut off.
Wow.
So the pyramidal system in you is how you walk. You could be walking somewhere and not even remember getting there, because your brain does not need to be involved with you walking. It's a hardwired activity. Just like you can digest food and never think about it. You never think, oh, I just ate a cheeseburger, I better digest it. Your body knows how to do it. And what happens is when the enteric nervous system and the brain are not on the same page, problems happen. And they begin with vagal, one of the ways that they can begin is with inappropriate vagal supply to the gut. Because even though this is the executive center for everything, there's so much independent control down here, and they don't stay in good contact with each other. It's like a pilot and a co-pilot trying to fly a plane, and they can never talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And you get into this, who's doing what and why? And that creates problems. And that further causes you to have digestive problems inside your gut. Okay? So, as I said, it's a second brain, but it doesn't have any rational thought to it. It doesn't help you with your concepts of poetry or philosophy. It is all functional control. But it does influence your emotional status, which is fascinating to think of. We've all heard the idiom, you are what you
Eat.
which is so true. And this is what I like to say. This is a bonus comment here for you. If you ever drink diet sodas with NutraSweet, did you know that NutraSweet, when it's in heated environments, it degrades. One of the byproducts of it is formaldehyde. So when you're drinking it, you're preserving yourself in a bad way. And I always think of, how do you spell the word diet? D-I-E, and then there's a cross at the end.
Oh.
So that's my way of saying avoid diet drinks. Because it changes what happens in your gut with neurotransmitters. And the acids and everything else affect other functions of the body. Now today, I'm not going to be spending time on specific enzymes. Pepsin, trypsin, amylase, and a bunch of other ones that are present in your gut that break food down. That's not the purpose of today. But those very enzymes are impacted neurologically. And if it's not being controlled properly, then you get dysbiosis. Guess what that also sets the stage for? How about inappropriate levels of hydrochloric acid in your gut, which then allow things like H. pylori, the bacteria, to grow rampant, causing ulcers. Okay? Do you see how this gets this cascade effect? Mm-hmm. And what do we do in our culture today? As a society, what's our go-to thing?
Food.
Food, or perhaps rather than changing our diet, or perhaps getting a chiropractic adjustment, we take a little purple pill, right? Prilosec.
Oh yeah.
In fact, this is a shocking thing. Most of the biggest expanding market in the drug industry is lifestyle medication. It's drugs that you can take that allow you to continue doing what you do with no consequence, or what appears to be no consequence. Yesterday, I saw that there was a drug out now that you take prophylactically, which may help you keep from getting AIDS. Rather than being responsible in how you choose to have sex, you take something that in case the person may have AIDS, you can do whatever you want to do and there's no repercussions. I'm not trying to make a judgment on that. I'm just saying, if you were intelligent about what you did, you wouldn't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
You know? It's like, rather than changing my diet of Budweiser, Dr. Peppers, and corn dogs, I'm going to take Prilosec, which will cover the symptoms, and I can keep eating chili, bean dip, and Taco Bell. Do you see?
Yes.
Those are lifestyle medications, and if you pay attention, now they're going to jump out at you everywhere. Okay? You'll see them all over the place. It's because it's the world's biggest booming market for drugs. Okay? So, this last paragraph on the page where I introduce the enteric nervous system, we actually have the ability to control gut behavior independently of the brain. Surprisingly, about 90% of the fibers in the primary visceral nerve, the vagus, carry information from the gut to the brain, not the other way around. Right here on this section.
Where are you now?
Let's see. Right
Oh, this part?
there.
Okay.
Think about that. You've got 90% going north and only 10% of the nerve supply coming down from the brain. So the gut is directly impacting brain function more than the brain function is impacting the gut. Wow. That's pretty remarkable. When you see, so when I was in chiropractic college and we were doing dissection, you realize when you cut the cadaver open and you see these nerves, nerves are not these pristine little precious things that are just present and you have to be so careful with. Nerves are robust and they're strong. And you think about the vagus nerve sending all that information up to your brain. If you're not well here, what are those messages going up? Bad messages. Or they're not bad, they're just not healthy, not healthy messages. That's why, if I can use as an example, Tim, we've done a lot of work with Eli this direction.
Yeah.
Okay? So, people who take psychotropic medication, antidepressants, those dramatically impact how the gut functions because they're changing things like serotonin levels. They're changing things of how your body's able to interpret the food that it's eating and processing, because if the enteric nervous system loses that intelligent control over what's present, let's just remember, what percentage of your immune system is in your gut?
90%.
70, I believe.
Oh, 70.
70%. Oh, 70+%. If that's the case, and you're taking medications that you don't think would have any impact on gut control, and it's depressing not only your brain function, but your gut function, because the enteric nervous system is truly depressed now, because of the meds you're taking, you're going to create major gut issues that then cascade, because remember, 90% of the information goes from the gut to the brain. And now your brain, which is already being medicated, is now getting this insult of more bad information. And you create this loop. Oftentimes, just getting your gut working right will improve depression dramatically.
Wow.
It's remarkable how this works. Now, there's a whole lot that I included. I included a lot of research studies on chiropractic and the gut. You're more than welcome to read through those. I think that's great information, especially if you're out to dinner with somebody and you see, they say, oh, I've been having problems with my acid reflux or my whatever. You can say, hey, did you know, maybe you should get that checked by a chiropractor real quick, because there could be a cause for that. The body became aware of what was present that shouldn't be there and took evasive action, if you will, to get things out. That's why I almost always tell people, when you get this adjusted, your first day, your gut may change, and you may notice things speed up a bit. Okay? I've covered a broad brush of information today, not much specific. But do you have any questions?
These, the GABA 5-HT precursors.
Yes.
Underneath the dysbiosis, are those the different microbiotas or the?
No. Those are neurotransmitters.
Okay.
Or precursors for neurotransmitters. You can buy GABA, 5-HTP, and other things.
That's where I've seen a lot of those.
Yeah.
And what are they doing? They're just supplementing what you think you don't have, probably because your gut's not healthy.
Well, they're involved with hormones. What are they doing?
Yeah.
They can either stimulate or downregulate, suppress how you handle food in your gut and your emotional state. They can dramatically impact emotional state.
Okay.
That's why some people actually, when they take GABA or 5-HTP, they say they feel kind of high or free.
Yeah.
Okay, they're trying to help with their serotonin production.
Yeah. What did this doctor who had cancer, what did he do with his diet?
What did he do?
Yeah.
He did a vegetable juice diet.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. So there's so many diet out there, different kind of like, you know, your body type or your body type might be different than mine.
Yes.
Would that be the different diet for somebody, or, you know?
Yes.
Or it's not like this will fit everybody?
That's a very good question. I think the answer is yes and no. I think that for a person who's healthy and not having any major issues, there is a good general diet for them. For most people, eat a wide variety of foods, make sure they're primarily organically sourced, that are not full of a bunch of preservative agents and other toxins that can be in them, and you'll probably be fine.
Okay.
Okay? If people have specific issues, then you have to start tweaking what they eat, how they eat it, and when they eat it. And that varies person to person.
Now, I think somehow I read the article about eat right for your
Blood type?
Blood type. Is that really count?
I think there is some validity to that. So for example, I'm O. I'm the consummate omnivore.
Oh, so it says you should eat all kinds of varieties,
Yes.
like meat and...
Yeah, whereas like B or A,
Right.
there's other things. So there is some, I believe that some of that is right. I don't think it's universal.
I think this is something like A or B or whatever, then the vegetarian diet will be better for that.
Mhm.
I don't
doesn't
know if
mean
it
you-
has anything, I mean, are they right, or, I mean, I don't know.
Somewhat.
It's
I
just-
think that, I think science is kind of split, actual research on it. I think if you lean more towards that style of diet, you're probably gonna do better than if you don't.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you have to go hardcore into
Right.
it and become a vegan tomorrow,
Right.
okay?
There's so many things out there, and then as soon as you got to this one, it's, oh, there's something else, you know.
Yes, you're right.
Right now it's keto diet.
So what do you do in addition to adjustments to achieve gut health?
Okay, number one, thank you, I
Great
should have covered this.
question.
So, I recommend quarterly or biannual cleanses. I think that's great. When you take a break from what you normally do and you give your body a chance to reset. And a cleanse can be anywhere from 3 to 21 days. Okay? And depending on what type you want to do, you can ask me and I can help guide you in that. But I think a quarterly or biannual reset is very good for your body. I think in so many ways. I think that doing a food inventory and making sure you're not eating foods that you're reacting to. Most people over the age of 30 will have certain foods they innately react to now, and they need to remove from their diet. They shouldn't eat them. Okay? And there's a great book called The Plan, which walks you through that. I think it's a bit overboard. I think there's some easier ways to figure that out, but it is a foolproof way of finding out what you react to versus not, especially if you're trying to lose weight. That is a great book for that. And as far as diet, talk to somebody that you trust about how to figure out what you should or should not be eating. I think that is so key, that you're right. There is not one thing that's right for everybody. When you brought that up, so important. But reset your food, eat a wide variety, fast I think intermittent fasting is also a good idea. I think our bodies are actually made for that. Historically, we didn't have food all the time. We would go a day or so without food. And I think that also helps reset our system, other than just a cleanse. Okay? So those are my comments.
Would a cleanse include a fast mimicking diet of 5 days?
It would.
Okay.
Yes, it would.
It's a hard 5 days.
You should try a 21 day.
21 day.
Yes. Yes. Now you're eating during that time, but what you eat
Yeah.
has to be.
I've done a Daniel fast for 21
Oh,
days.
that's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That
Yeah.
wasn't easy either.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yep.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Did I answer your question good enough for you?
Yep.
Okay.